How would you feel when the crowded area becomes deserted, and the sound of wind blowing is heard where there was no space of an ant to walk? The major disadvantage of was many of them lost the businesses that made them important centers of finance, manufacturing, and commerce. Abandoned cities have high crime rates, which not only keeps people from relocating to these areas, but is actually an incentive for them to move away. So in today's video, we will show you 10 American cities that are dead forever. But before starting the video, I want to request we put our best effort to create our single video, so please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start. Number 1. Buffalo, New York State. In 1900, Buffalo was the 8th largest city in America. It was located on one of the busiest sections of the Erie Canal, the terminus of the canal on the Great Lakes. Thanks to its location, Buffalo had huge grain milling operations and one of the largest steel mills in the country. Buffalo prospered during World War II, as did many northern industrial cities. After the World War II, the manufacturing plants returned to the production of cars and industrial goods. The population rose to more than 500,000 in the mid-1950s. It is half that today. Buffalo was wounded irreparably by the deindustrialization of America. Number 2. Flint, Michigan. Flint was once a major industrial city and the birthplace of GM, then went into receivership, the equivalent of municipal bankruptcy, in 2002. The city had almost 200,000 residents in 1960 and has fewer than 100,000 today. The downfall of Flint can be described in a sentence. In 1960, GM employed 80,000 people in Flint, and it employs fewer than 8,000 today. Flint was the headquarters of GM's Buick division for years, but these operations were moved to Detroit in 1998. Number 3. Hartford, Connecticut. The city was once the insurance capital of the world. In 1950, the city's population peaked at more than $177,000 and has dropped to 124,000 recently. Hartford was beyond being an insurance center, also home to a number of manufacturing and publishing businesses. Hartford lost some of its insurance firms as they moved to new locations, primarily because of consolidation in this sector. 5 large financial firms have downsized their workforces. These include MetLife, Cigna, Lincoln Financial, Mass Mutual, and perhaps most depressing of all, the Hartford. Number 4. Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland became a major port and land transportation hub due to its central location on Lake Erie. A number of the largest rubber companies in the world and other manufacturers for the car and steel industry were also located near or in the city. Cleveland had 914,000 residents in 1950. The figure is below 480,000 today. A number of the large manufacturing operations have left the region or downsized based on the transfer of the steel, rubber, and car industries elsewhere, particularly to Japan. Number 5. New Orleans, Louisiana. The location of New Orleans at the mouth of the Mississippi made it one of the most important ports in America for more than 200 years. Oddly enough, New Orleans remains a massive port, but a number of the jobs which were once performed by laborers are now automated. A great deal of the commercial traffic which once moved by river is now transported more efficiently by truck, rail, and air. The city had also been a financial capital of the South because of the cotton and river trade. Faster-growing southern cities like Atlanta became more important financial centers as their populations grew. One of the industries that began to offset the faltering trade and financial sectors was tourism, which rose throughout the second half of the last century. But the city suffered from its location, part of it below sea level, and several hurricanes that hit the city, particularly Hurricane Betsy in 1965. In August 2005, Hurricane Katrina dealt the city a nearly fatal blow. Number 6. Detroit, Michigan. The Motor City was the 5th largest city in America with a population of almost 1.9 million in 1950. The number of residents increased sharply from the 1920s when Henry Ford created the assembly line and set a wage of $5 a day. Workers streamed in from the Deep South and other parts of the Midwest. The huge car companies became defense contractors during World War II. The auto industry grew abundantly after the war as the American middle class was created by an expanding economy built on the U.S.'s ability to take its vast natural resources and turn them into finished products. During the 1960s, American car companies had nearly 90% of the domestic market, and GM had 50% to itself. Detroit's demise began with the rise of Japanese imports in the 1970s. The Arab oil embargo increased the appetite of U.S. consumers for high-mileage cars. Number 7. Albany, New York State. Albany is still the capital of New York State. It was once one of the largest inland ports in the world, sitting near the place where the Hudson River meets the Erie Canal. This helped it become a major center for finished lumber and ironworks. Perhaps because of the influence of the politicians who worked in the city, several universities and colleges were built there. The city's manufacturing industry helped the population to rise to $134,000 in 1950. It is now under $95,000. The higher education institutions in the region have begun to help Albany become a regional center for information technology and the biotechnology industries. But these are not large enough to offset declines in the city's fortunes, which began in the 1960s. Number 8. Atlantic City, Georgia. Atlantic City, mostly known for its gambling business. Atlantic City was dying before legislation allowed gaming companies to operate there. The city was created as a tourist location in the 1880s, and a number of massive hotels were built there. Atlantic City's hospitality industry also made it a favorite for trade shows and conventions. The Democratic National Convention was held there in 1964. The city's appeal to tourists was damaged primarily by two things. The first was the availability of inexpensive air travel to southern resorts areas like Florida. Vacationers could fly from New York to Miami, to Lauderdale and Palm Beach in less time than it took to drive to Atlantic City. The second, the rise of Las Vegas as the gaming capital of the world, made it the preferred destination for many conventions. Atlantic City got into the gambling industry in 1978, too late. Number 9. Allentown, Pennsylvania. This Pennsylvania city had two advantages in the middle of the last century. It was well located for railroads that moved freight from the Midwest through Pennsylvania and New Jersey to the eastern seaboard. Its proximity to iron ore made it a major manufacturing center and refiner, much like Bethlehem to its east and Pittsburgh to its west. Like many other northeastern manufacturing cities, Allentown watched its major product, in this case, steel, being produced in greater and greater volumes and at lower prices in Japan. Number 10. Galveston, Texas. This Texas city was one of the largest ports in the U.S. 100 years ago. It was also the location of one of the greatest natural disasters in American history. In 1900, a hurricane killed between 6,000 and 8,000 people. In the decades after the hurricane, Galveston became a major tourist center due to its location on the Gulf and proximity to several larger Texas cities. Galveston was also a major military recruitment center during World War II. The cause of Galveston's demise is unique. It had become something of the Sodom and Gomorrah of the southern U.S. There was a large gambling industry there, some of it illegal, which was controlled by criminals. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.